The latest hot rumor is that Disney is selling or thinking about selling, at least taking calls to sell Star Wars. So we're going to talk about that today from a legal perspective and what are some of the risks. In fact, I'm going to highlight five different areas which have a huge amount of risk if Disney was to sell Star Wars or even explore the option of selling Star Wars here today. As always, I am Andrew Esquire, Florida attorney who specialized in special district law for real estate for a very long time. Therefore, I've been on top of this Disney case. But I also was in-house counsel, and I also happen to spend a significant amount of my time, particularly recently, doing acquisition-related work. So that's something that, to me, I have some personal recent experience with acquisitions in a corporate context. So I have a little bit of things to say about this in terms of potential issues for Disney selling Star Wars. And I think that a lot of folks have identified some of those issues from a pure content standpoint. Oh, what's going to happen to the current content? I get it, right? That's something we can talk about, but there's so much more there legally, financially, and in all the other different areas. As always, Andrew Esquire, like I said, Florida attorney, and this is the Legal Mindset. We help you be your own judge. And thank you, everyone who got me over 100K. I appreciate you on this ride to provide the best information. And on this channel, our theme is you be your own judge. Be your own judge. Take this information, come up to your own conclusions, and leave a comment. And whether it's something that I agree with or disagree with, you are happy to express it respectfully in the comments below. So let's start with the first thing, and this is not my area of expertise, but I give a big shout out to my good friends Valiant Renegade and Mexican Iron Man, who are deep financial folks with all of the financial bona fides, and they brought up some issues with this on the financial side of a merger, which I will summarize. And I will just say, there's perceptual things about finances which very much need to go into play here. So we understand that Disney needs money for Hulu. They need money badly for Hulu. So they could use another couple $2 billion off a Star Wars sale. That would be awesome for them right now. They would love that. However, here's the problem. When you go to sell something, and let's leave aside what the price of Star Wars would be. Let's pretend they could sell it just in pretend. Fairy dust land. We're in Disney fairy dust land. Let's pretend that they can sell it for the exact same price, about $4 billion, in which George Lucas sold it. Let's pretend they can. I don't think they can, but let's leave that aside. So they can sell it for $4 billion, right? Okay, great. Well, what happens to the Disney stock price when they sell Star Wars, a marquee signature piece in their bonnet, in their infinity gauntlet of properties? Yeah, that's going to tank the price. Now, all that stuff, all that cred they've recently got for working with Apple, that collaboration, which, by the way, we don't even know how much that's going to ultimately net them, what that will net them, or what the potential upside is there. We have no clue. However, that being said, a sale of Star Wars would signify that they are desperate, that they have already abandoned their plans, that they've failed, that they're a failure as a corporation. We're developing IP. And that would also make you question Marvel. It'd make you think, oh, what's going to happen with Marvel? Are they going to sell Marvel next? You would be doubting the Walt Disney Company if they sold Star Wars. So I think from a financial side, that would hurt them. It would give them the perception of a weak failure of a company, which we can argue they are based on what they've put out and the performance of what they put out. But I think selling that is the final straw. And I think it's got to fall much further. Disney has to be much more desperate to get to the selling it phase. I don't think just yet they're there. I mean, maybe we're close, but I don't think yet. So that's where we're at on the financial side. And there are ways that they can come up with leverage to get there, to barely scrape by the Hulu deal without selling Star Wars. Obviously, if they got the money, that would be a way to get there with Hulu. But it's trading one for the other, and I don't think you're gaining that much. And the other thing is, let's go back to that price. We're all imagining in pretend land that Star Wars is still worth as much as George Lucas sold it for. I would say that with the damage they've done to the brand, the price is at least halved, if not even less than that. If you just look at unprofitable venture after unprofitable venture, Disney Star Wars is more of a loss leader than anything else. In fact, I wouldn't even call it a loss leader, because loss leaders are supposed to be put out there to drive traffic to your business. it's just a loss. It's just running in the red. It's costing money, PR, goodwill. The fans are atrophying quick. Star Wars is dead, if not dying, in terms of what it used to be, in terms of market share, revenue, and the attention and love it garnered from fans. So I think financially, that number would have to come way down in terms of total overall number. We'll talk about that a little later. So let's talk about personnel. It's number 2. This is a huge problem, which I haven't heard many other people talking about, but they're probably having to, well, either keep horrible employees or get rid of all of them and start again. And that's going to be a hard process to purge Star Wars enough to make it work. If you keep the same writers, the same people that are pumping out failing woke garbage, yeah, that's not going to work well. You've got to go and you've got to purge all of that. You got to throw it all away. You got to start new. You've got to, come up with a team that's not totally invested in injecting their woke politics at every turn. That's going to be a problem. That's going to be either way, no matter who buys it, whether it's George Lucas, whether it's a Saudi, which we'll get into, it would be a nightmare to try to restaff that. So that's going to be something that's a huge fight. People underestimate the wind down periods. Let's say you did actually want to take over and fire everybody and transition to a whole different team. That's going to take probably a year to 2 years to wind down and respin up. It's going to be a while. It's not going to be a quick or free process. Also going on from that, we mentioned whether it's selling it to George Lucas or the Saudis, securities law. So obviously, Iger, if he did receive an offer, is going to be required to disclose that in the future, particularly in securities filings. If he had a genuine offer to purchase Star Wars, yes, they would be required to disclose that. However, there'd be potential other issues if he's selling it to the Saudis. So one of these rumors is that he's selling it to one of the Saudi princes. And obviously, there's some foreign regulations that might be triggered under securities law, which could be interesting, could slow this down, have extra scrutiny, people looking at that. It bears to be seen how that would play out if it was going abroad. Although I would say it would be very interesting to see the Muslim world capture Star Wars. Of course, I think they could film it a lot better in the Middle East with some of those shots. In fact, that's where Dune was filmed in person over there in the Middle East. So hey, maybe some of those Tatooine shots would look better. And certainly, if we're talking about developing the properties in terms of like a theme park, they might be able to get away with that in the Middle East. And that brings me to number 4. The fourth issue is just the contractual issue. So obviously there are current contracts with companies, film companies, independent film companies, to spin up these shows, these movies, as I believe Script Doctor said on Valiant's show or WW Pro's show. These companies are spun up for each show or movie. So each show or movie is insulated in that it's its own little independent company. That's the thing. To protect itself, it's a legal mechanism, a personnel, HR mechanism. It's quite smart to do for each of these little projects. So if it fails, it's kind of contained. The damage is contained. You can kind of nuke that damage and keep it over there. So because of that, because those little companies are spun up, they're funded, then they go away, you've got all these contracts to manage. And how is that going to be managed? Are they going to break those contracts? They're going to have to settle those contracts. And whose money is that going to come out of? Is it Disney? Is it the buyer? And for example, where are the costs going to fall in this deal? See, if Disney needs cash, they need to give them as many rights as possible. But if they're not giving them money and not paying them to license out their stuff or to continue to produce these shows or films, well, that's not as lucrative, right? That's not as lucrative if they're not getting some money, if this buyer is not going to be able to get some money immediately off of Star Wars. If they're going to have to wait 4 or 5 years to make any money off of Star Wars, that's going to be a problem. Another thing is theme parks. Now, some of you may or may not know, but for example, Islands of Adventure, there is a very famous lawsuit by Universal against Disney upon the purchase of Marvel for the continued use of those characters in that theme park. And they won a lawsuit allowing them to continue to use the characters that are present in Islands of Adventure, to continue to do that, refurbish the rides. They can't build anything crazy new, but they can continue to refurbish and keep up all of the characters that are there and sell merchandise and have costume characters that are physically present in the park, even the ones that are just present in the marquees, like for example, Thor, right? They can sell Thor merchandise, but they can't build, for example, a brand spanking new Thor ride. And I don't think they would want to do that Islands of Adventure. So yes, there could be a big fight over Disney Star Wars. Now, I think Galaxy's Edge would stay Galaxy's Edge, but let's say a Saudi bought it. So let's do an interesting kind of experiment here. If Disney tried to prohibit them from starting a new theme park in Riyadh, or let's say, somewhere in the Middle East, maybe they start one, they have an agreement and they make one in the UAE, for example, and they make a brand new Star Wars theme park in the UAE. By the way, that'd be pretty immersive if there was one in Saudi Arabia. That being said, I don't know if they'd be able to have Twi'lek dancers. That's why they might need to go to another country with more liberal laws on the Twi'leks. That being said, it would be difficult for Disney to try to enforce that law, those contractual restrictions against building a theme park in another country. I think that Saudis would be able to say, yeah, kind of screw you, we're going to do it, and you can't really do anything about it. And particularly as the Saudis have been cozying up to China, I think they're more willing to say, yeah, kind of fuck you, America. We're going to do what we're going to do over here, and that's it. And the funny thing is, people would actually still travel and go see a Star Wars theme park, even if it is in Riyadh. Or wherever else in the Middle East. I think people would actually travel and see it if it was good and if it did the original trilogy. If they literally just made a Tatooine park, I think that thing would make bank. And it was the original characters, original trilogy, didn't even acknowledge Rey whatsoever as existing. I think it would do fine, it'd do perfect, and it would make absolutely, it would make Galaxy's Edge look like an embarrassment. It would shame the entire operation. But I also think that's why they won't do it, because there'd be an issue of face there. Disney would lose a lot of face if they see them getting destroyed making an original trilogy theme park versus the woke Rey park. I think that would really, really hurt Disney, and I don't think they want to have that exposed so openly and clearly. People flying across the world to Saudi Arabia to go to a original Star Wars park. And the last thing we can bring up, and the last issue, which I haven't heard other people bring up, and I know this sounds weird, it may sound like a movie line or something else, but synergy. Okay. Do not jump out of a window when I say the word synergy. I forget what movie that was from where they talked about that during the merger. But obviously, this often means cuts, right? Who are you going to cut? What are you going to keep? What are you going to not keep? But more holistically, it's what's the benefit you're trying to get out of an acquisition or a merger? So if you're trying to acquire a company, what is it? Is it cost savings? Are you going to be able to fire people? Are you going to be able to increase value to shareholders? Are you going to be able to produce a better product? What are you going to do? Now, frankly, it's not hard to produce something better than Disney Star Wars. Literally, if they just take the EU, take the expanded universe from the books, and just literally do that, you would be printing money forever. Literally forever. They have proven incapable of doing that at Disney. So that being said, look, there is a possible to increase the value there, but I think there needs to be more. I think that a potential purchaser, needs to see a long-term plan here to build out Star Wars as a property. And I don't know whether George Lucas would have that in and of himself. I think, look, it may be a pipe dream here for people to say, okay, Lucas is going to come in, he's going to save it, guys, he's going to buy it back. I just don't see that as a thing for George Lucas in terms of his motivations, his life mission, where he's at right now. Don't see that as something that's highly likely to provide a synergy for him at this point in his life. What is he going to do that's going to improve the corporate structure? That's, in fact, many of the decisions were actually made, and the people that were hired originally by Lucas. So there's potential issues there. I don't see a massive synergy. Now, as far as the Saudi purchase option, well, if they're doing that theme park in Riyadh, might be a little bit more tangible. But I will stick with most folks, I think, here who think this is probably more wishful thinking. Now, I want to hear what you guys think in the comments. If you guys think this is a real offer, this is really going to happen, let me know. Or if you think this is more hype, more rumor, more speculation. Maybe there was a call, maybe there was a discussion, but it's not actually going to happen. Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and thank you so much for getting me to 100K. We'll have a celebration stream very, very soon. Catch you next time. Peace.